they were passionate about. Then we had a great session where we gave an overview of what community-driven fundraising is and helped kind of color in the lines, like what does this actually look like? And then that was finalized off with a session by Candace Cody leading a panel with Priya from GLAAD and Jake from MPPH, where they really showcased how they use community-driven fundraising to inspire, activate, and rally their supporters to inspire others and grow their missions. For the rest of the afternoon, we have an incredible lineup. We're going to spend the next 40 minutes or so really diving into DIY fundraising, which is a specific type of community-driven fundraising that you can use year-round. Up next at 2 p.m., Stephen Shattuck from Bloomerang is going to be joining us to share the latest details on why donors stop giving. What are some of the ways that you can actually prevent that? And so the latest data he's going to bring with him, he's an expert on donor retention, and so we're grateful to have that. And he's going to talk a lot about how some of the trends we've already talked about being a part of versus not merely giving to, really leads to donor retention. And how do you really leverage that as your nonprofit? We have another 2 sessions with nonprofit leaders at CCAN and N Street Village this afternoon. Julia Campbell is going to be talking about building a movement. And then Brady Josephson is going to share how you can humanize your emails. And then we're going to wrap it up. And so we have another 3.5 hours together. We're excited to bring this to you. And I'm actually joined by Chris Collins, who's a fundraising advisor here at CosVox. Chris, welcome to the Fundraising Summit.
Hey, thanks, Noah. I appreciate it. Yeah, I've a little bit of background on me. I joined the team last summer, and previously been in the nonprofit tech industry for 10 years, and I actually had a connection with CosVox right around that time, 2010 or 11, and super excited to be over here the last 6 or 7 months for this. And yeah, I'm excited to kind of tie this together, give you my own spin on DIY and how to scale that, and maybe some things that I've seen. I've talked with lots and lots of folks over the last decade, and been involved with lots of walk, run, ride, polar plunges, road races, and just getting creative, trying to make good excuses for the charity to leverage donors into fundraisers, right? Yeah, and awesome. So I think I need to share a screen here, huh?
We're going to bring you back on, Chris, in just a few minutes. We're going to share the presentation to kind of give some backbone to this. And then Chris is going to come on and really talk about how you can actually set up and scale DIY with CosVox. And so one of the things that we see is that organizations tend to fundraise in spurts. Jake even said this, where there's like a secular effect to fundraising, whether it's around a specific event or multiple events, or an email campaign or an annual fundraiser that they have, or Giving Tuesday or year end, and tend to not have kind of a consistent flow of fundraising stream throughout the year. And one thing that we've seen is that when you think about tapping into the voice of your supporters, which is what we've been talking about all day with community-driven fundraising, that can happen throughout the year because you're really empowering your supporters to be your voice. And so how you can really tap into that, or the best way we've seen over the last 10 years here at CosVox, but also even in my own personal experience, I got connected with CosVox early on, 2010, 2011, and we originally started using CosVox because we wanted to set up what we were calling DIY fundraising, or do-it-yourself fundraising. And what that allowed us to do was empower our supporters to actually raise money on our behalf throughout the year. It wasn't based on when we're running a campaign or we're running an event. It was really focused on empowering our supporters to go out and get creative, whether they wanted to do a birthday campaign or a wedding campaign. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about kind of the mechanics of DIY, starting off with like, what is DIY? We're going to share some examples. We're going to talk about why DIY works and some key trends that really back that up. And then, like I mentioned, Chris is going to join us again and talk about how you can scale DIY with CosVox. I wanted to kind of bring this back up because this is a quote I shared earlier on. And I think to understand DIY, you really have to see it through the lens of the world that we're living in, which is the connected economy. And today, supporters are hyper connected, live inside personal feeds, and discover and support causes recommended by their friends and desire to be a part of, not merely give to. We saw how Jake talked about corporations and businesses wanting to do more than just give money, but rather be a part of the campaign and getting creative in that way. Or Priya, who shared how her board members and staff, and then just members and supporters of their organization really wanted to tell their own story. They wanted to be a part of that movement. And that's really what DIY fundraising empowers you to do for your supporters throughout the year. DIY fundraising is all about rallying your supporters on their terms, not yours, to help your organization raise money consistently throughout the year. And it's a simple way to mobilize volunteers or supporters, even new donors. We've seen incredible efforts where organizations have kind of capitalized on the momentum of a new supporters inspired to give, and they want to get them connected into the organization in a new way. And they've used DIY as an opportunity to connect them into. The other great thing about DIY is it creates this central place where you set it up once and support it. And Jake and Priya touched on it. Like, it's a lot of work to get set up initially, but it's a fundraising campaign and fundraising program that pays dividends year over year, month over month, instead of like a lot of other fundraising initiatives where the ROI is based on a short-term campaign or a short-term initiative. And then you have to do it all over again the next year. DIY, creating a central place where people can fundraise on behalf of your organization, the cause that you're fighting for, anytime they want, is really what DIY is all about. And the interesting thing about DIY is you see incredible stories. When you focus on activating supporters to share their story integrated with your story and why they support the cause, you have people that do crazy things or interesting things or sentimental things. One organization that we work with a lot is World Bicycle Relief, and they had a father and son go out and were passionate about this organization's effort. They provide mobility to people in developing communities. And Chris and Will, father and son, I have 3 boys, and so I'm always looking for ways to engage with my sons and kind of like tap into their creativity and what they're passionate about. Well, World Bicycle Relief, through DIY fundraising, was able to do that for Chris and Will. Chris was able to connect with his son and bring him along on this adventure where they tried to raise $14,000, $15,000 for this organization. And instead of raising $14,000 or $15,000, they raised almost $40,000. And they recruited 89 donors to the organization and were able to really showcase their story. And I can imagine that Chris and Will, through this shared experience, also felt more connected. And the foundation of that was World Bicycle Relief realizing that DIY was a great way to increase engagement with their supporters, but also reach new donors. And this is a credible example, but it's not the only one. We have another organization called Innovation Africa who taps into DIY on a regular basis, where they have supporters like Renan, who gave up his bar mitzvah on behalf of their organization. So a creative way for this kid that wanted to do something different, wanted to showcase how he wanted to bring his community together in support of something he was passionate about. He was able to raise $24,000 from 174 donors, introducing all of those donors to this organization's work. But the catalyst was this boy's passion and willingness to give up something on behalf of others so that he could be a catalyst to bring people into an opportunity where they can be a part of something bigger than themselves. And it doesn't stop there. The organization I used to work at, called World Help, we really saw how our supporters were passionate and loved the work that we did. But that always, when we asked why, it always took different approaches or what they wanted to do. There was always new ideas or creative ideas. And so we had hundreds of people raise money on our behalf or different causes that we were working on through a variety of creative things like dinners and parties and biking and runs and walks and sponsorships. But then we also had young children and like these two girls fundraised back to back year over year, where they were passionate about the water crisis and kind of this idea that people wouldn't have access to clean water, and they wanted to do something. So they leveraged their influence in the community, their youthful spirit and optimism, and they were able to raise an incredible amount of money to provide clean water through our organization for communities in Guatemala. But it was two girls saying, I want to do something bigger than myself. They raised $15,000 one year and then $8,500 the next year. And this was what they were doing. They was pushing this forward. And we were there to support them, to rally them to do this on our behalf. And that's really what DIY is all about. But it's not just young people. This isn't like a millennial thing, because we see individuals like Kurt and Mary who were turning 60, and they want to do something different. You know, they're turning 60, they didn't need any more gifts. They had a network of people, but they wanted to use their influence to support an organization that they loved. And so they threw a birthday campaign where they were able to raise $27,000, $28,000 for this nonprofit by giving up their birthdays and saying, hey, community, you know, we want to do something bigger than ourselves as we turn 60. How can you come along and be a part of this campaign as well? And again, a variety of generations, a variety of different connections, really focused on supporters, but we've also seen it work with other types of individuals like board members. Amigos International, which is another nonprofit that works to provide development opportunities in Latin America, were able to engage their board members. So DIY is a great opportunity, not just for young people or millennials or, you know, businesses like Jake talked about, but also board members and volunteers and people that are just passionate about this work. That all goes back to this idea that there was a central place where they could create these campaigns and invite their community to be a part of that. And that's really what DIY fundraising is all about. The organization is empowering supporters to use their voice to raise more money for their missions. And we see this even across different types of organizations like TACO, which is Talk About Curing Autism, where they invite families that are impacted and kind of working with children that have autism and starting conversations in their communities, but also looking to raise money to help advance this conversation and kind of how can their communities continue to grow and talk about this work that's being done. And so they invite these families to go out and raise money on behalf of the organization, which is helping them amplify the conversation, but also acquire new donors, raise more money, and helping them ultimately advance their mission forward. $22,000 raised on behalf of this little girl, and there's hundreds of others that they are able to engage and equip to do this, to have this conversation, to reach out and share their stories with their friends, family, and community. And so it's an incredible way for you to build connectivity, build emotional connection, and increase engagement with your organization. Like I mentioned before, we've seen this done with Amigos, who activates a variety of supporters, volunteers, and board members. They also empower their fundraisers by providing a toolkit, which Priya talked a lot about, and how really coming alongside your fundraisers and helping them amplify their campaigns is a part of a successful DIY program. But this is the type of effort that you're able to create and then be able to scale up and invite people in. And I believe Jake was the one that mentioned it too, is just to test this out, where it might start off small, where you're inviting board members in to create a campaign, or you're inviting other supporters that just love your organization, or volunteers to come onto your platform and raise money on your behalf. But year over year, as more and more people do this, it's able to scale up and build. And that's what we saw firsthand when I was leading this effort at World Help prior to joining CauseVox. You know, we understood that our supporters cared deeply about the causes we supported. And it was a part of their identity, and they really wanted to showcase that support in a way that they could be a part of that. And so we created a central place where they could do that. And we saw hundreds of thousands of dollars being raised by hundreds of people on behalf of our work, moving it forward years over years. World Bicycle Relief, I believe, has raised millions over the past few years just by investing in this effort. And their program has really scaled up, but they still have a very small team. I believe there's one person on their team dedicated to helping with this, but that wasn't the case originally. It was just hey, we have people that love our work and want to talk about the work we're doing. So let's empower them to do this. DIY fundraising is very similar to like a referral program or a customer voice campaign that for-profits have been doing. And DIY is really a way for you as a nonprofit to tap into your supporters' voice. And like I said, World Bicycle Release has seen incredible efforts or incredible results from this effort. They've had over 800 people raise money from a variety of different backgrounds, and raising everything from a few $100s to multiple thousands of dollars for their efforts. But it's incredible to see what happens when they just say, hey, we want to give our community, our supporters, the opportunity to use their voice to advance our mission. And this is really important, as I've already mentioned, because it results in higher retention, increased engagement in giving, and ultimately giving you access to new donors via word of mouth. And this isn't just a social fundraising campaign. DIY and peer-to-peer and community-driven isn't like a social media thing. It's not a Facebook, Twitter thing, because we hear a lot of pushback that says, oh, we don't do that because our audience isn't online or doesn't do social in that way. The most impactful campaigns or important campaigns we've seen that have raised a lot of money for organizations are by individuals that are baby boomers and above, that are leveraging their networks in different ways, whether it's through their businesses, whether it's through email, like Jake mentioned, where a lot of the funds that are coming into these personal fundraising pages have nothing to do with social. It's that people are saying, hey, I'm going to send out an email, share with my friends and family and colleagues about the work that I'm a part of, and inviting them to be a part of that. And so it's a great opportunity to access new donors, but it takes setting it up and realizing that. And I think what's more important, or why DIY has really kind of taken hold, and we've seen it continue to grow year over year, and especially kind of scale up as people are realizing that we're living in a connected economy, and the way to really fundraise well or kind of tap into today's supporters is by ensuring that you're inviting them to be a part of, not merely give to your campaign. And DIY is a great way to do that. It also kind of taps into the full value of your supporters. So you're not limited to the dollar sign next to their name on a spreadsheet, but rather tapping into their influence that they have to encourage others to join your organization. And that's really where we see DIY take off, is when you're able to showcase that you value a supporter more than the money that they can give, but also the influence and the value that they have. And this really plays into a lot of the different kind of trends we're seeing. You know, retention is down and has been down for the past 10 years, or flatlined pretty much. Stephen is going to come on at 2:00 to really talk through this more in detail, but retention's down. And the reasons that people typically stop giving or don't give is because they don't feel supported. They don't feel connected. And this kind of puts us on a spiral, and I'll save my words, but use Dr. Adrian Sargent's words, where he said, you know, we're continuing to lose donors at a pretty alarming rate. And we're caught on this treadmill where we have to spend tons of money acquiring new donors, or lose money acquiring donors just to stand still, or really to even downgrade because we're not retaining donors. And what we believe and what we've seen work, and I've seen it work personally, is that by implementing a program like DIY, where you say you're valuing your supporters, you're bringing them in, you can really help increase these efforts. Because another trend as to why donors are not continuing to give to organizations is because they feel underappreciated. And DIY is designed to say, no, we appreciate you. We want you to be connected. You're valuable. You're necessary as a part of this conversation. And you're giving them a platform and a way to do that. Oops. Additionally, we're seeing tons of generational shifts. And so peer-to-peer, DIY peer-to-peer is a great way to tap into some of these shifts going on, whether it's baby boomers retiring and looking for more ways that they can get involved and kind of leave a legacy, or millennials who deeply care about social issues and feel as though they're activists, and really seek out organizations that allow them to take action or be a part of and not merely give to. And these all are kind of trends pointing to the value of having a DIY fundraising initiative or program in your organization if you don't already have one. And if you do have one already, some of our other sessions this afternoon are going to talk about how do you scale that up? How do you do that really well? The other big trend that we're seeing is that peer-to-peer giving is continuing to grow. 85% of donors prefer to be asked by friends to make a donation. And additionally, we've seen decreasing engagement with brands or organizations. And so that's actually driving it more important to give a higher voice to your supporters and really tapping into the voice of the supporter. It's an incredible way to counteract this decrease in engagement, where your voice as a nonprofit is decreasing, or the ability to reach new people, but your supporters' voice is actually being amplified. And ultimately, this helps you raise more money. We've talked about this stat already, but DIY really helps you build a foundation. This is why it's so important, and ultimately taps into this idea that your supporters are worth more than just the money that you have. And I think organizations that understand this and really leverage this, especially in today's connected economy, are going to continue to see growth, because we see them having growth day in and day out here at CauseVox, but they're going to continue to see growth because you're creating a central place that's really empowers your supporters to raise money on your behalf throughout the year, regardless of whether they want to throw a birthday party or run a 5K or grow a mustache or host a community event. You'll be ready. And so we know DIY works, but the biggest kind of problem we hear people running into is that they don't know how to actually implement that or set up and really scale DIY fundraising. And so Chris is going to come on now and actually share more on how you can actually set up and scale DIY fundraising with CauseVox. So he's going to spend the next 15 minutes really digging into this to give kind of a soft overview of how we can help you support this type of program here at CauseVox. So, hey, Chris.
Hey, Noah, thank you so much. I'm going to grab the screen sharing and continue on here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
Yeah. So show people how they can really scale up their peer-to-peer fundraising with CauseVox and how we've helped other nonprofits do that.
Will do. Yeah. Can you see my screen?
Yep. Everything looks great.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you, guys. So yeah, I have a few examples open for us, and I also have the admin area open as well. So I think I'm going to take us on a bit of a journey looking at the front end. We're going to get into the back end to see how, from my take, you can best manage this and give your fundraisers a head start on fundraising for you. And yeah, I'll sprinkle in just my ideas and opinions along the way, and we'll go from there. So as we're looking at eSite now, I see this as in CauseVox as simple on purpose. I wouldn't let the simplicity fool you. There's a lot of horsepower on the back end to tweak this and accomplish some heavy lifting for you to get those numbers and those results. Aside from what we're sort of used to seeing in the compartments there with the banners, logos, colors, and text, there's a couple really important calls to action that are very clear, and the page purposefully does that by eliminating confusion and makes those CTAs, as we call them, right, very clear. And if you just look at the Give Now, Start Fundraising, and Share, if I could put a dollar sign and an amount tied to those, I would actually write $50 over the donate button, and I would write $500 over the Start Fundraising button, because essentially on average, that's typically what those pathways are worth. You can ask me to support you and ask for a donation, and I'll give you $50, or you can say, hey, Chris, tuck your wallet away, take a financial break, and fundraise for us, and I'll go raise $500. And it's interesting, I'll do that in a way where I'll introduce people that you've never met to you just by saying, hey, to my wife, Emily, will you please give me some money for the fundraising event? And for my mom and my sister as well. And I thought about this, and it's really interesting. And I have to apologize to Noah, because I gave to Noah, and this is case in point, right? I gave to Noah, I think it was November, it was around Giving Tuesday, and I donated to a campaign, but I gave to Noah because Noah asked, and I can't tell you, I know it was a community foundation, but I do not know the overall mission. I can't remember the name, but I gave to Noah because Noah asked. And maybe you guys can relate. You know, we have friends that have asked us to give, you know, through different mediums. And, you know, for me, that's sort of leveraging your supporters. You know, what pathway can you get these folks to take? And of course, you want them to take a path that's easy. You know, the other thing is, you know, when we've heard a lot of this today, we've heard about, you know, folks saying, you know, well, it's competitive, it's a competitive market, and how do I get into this? And will they do it, you know? And sometimes we think, based on our own lens, is that, you know, we might not, or we may. I know that sometimes the people that you think will or won't, rather, and sometimes the people that you never thought of will. So in order to really make this happen, you definitely have to have a page up, right? You want to have a hub that's up there that gives, you know, that opportunity to folks. And that's what we have here. This is what we're looking at right now, a DIY site. And that's for the backstories for the low visibility or probably legally blind, right? And they're raising money for specific needs and glasses. Those glasses come at a steep price, $6,000 a pop. But yeah, as we look at this site, you know, of course, this lots of customization. You have the custom banner at the top. And I've actually talked with somebody last week that said, oh, so this is on their website, because they thought that because it didn't say, you know, proprietary cosvox.com, but we allow for lots of additional customization. But look, as I shrink this down here, and as you see this, let's just take it down to what it would look like on a mobile phone. So still, you know, easy to use. We know a lot is going to mobile now. Somebody said it earlier today, computers in our pockets, and I do a lot of that as well. But as you see here, it's going to fit nicely. The text stays legible, and persistent navigation right down by your thumb on an iPhone would be donate, join, and share. So we're still driving people, and we want folks to get to this join button, right? You know, I've heard a lot of talk about, you know, what age group could do this, and how will we get there? You know, as I scroll down through the, you know, the compartments here, and you see linked, you know, logos and text, and we're going to get into fundraisers, right? And so I've looked at these fundraisers, and I like what Dennis has done and the amounts that he's put up. You know, Dennis is, you know, a little bit older, right? And he's told his story. And the call to action now, when you get locked in here, is a donate button, right? So nothing else, right? We're not bringing you off on other paths, because at this point, Dennis has said, I want to raise money for you. So when he asks his friend, the main CTA is, let's get my friends to donate to me. And that's what he's done. And he's found 43 people through a nice long story and pictures to give to him. And, you know, it's with the recent updates. But when I think of peer-to-peer fundraising, this is crucial. So the first part is, you know, loved ones give to loved ones. You can use your own story. You can curate that story that's given to you by the nonprofit. I'm going to show you in a bit how you can pre-stock the story, so you can give people, you know, the fuel to get going without really doing anything. And we see a lot of examples of folks that have raised a ton of money with a pre-stock story that the nonprofit added for them, right? And I'm the same way. We're all so busy, right? And we're all competing over, you know, just fractions of time throughout the day, right? Hopefully my do not disturb is off right now, right? So yeah, equally as important down here, I found just out of habit over the last decade that I want to know that my friend knows that I gave. And so I'm that person that wants to leave a comment. You know, I want to see it on a wall. I don't want to click on a donate button and have it drop off into the abyss. And because I'm like, oh, they won't notice, right? If they're not going to notice, maybe what's the point? Because, you know, there's so much competition. So I think as you guys explore this, maybe this is common for you, or maybe this is new. This is really important, the comment section. But, you know, with any good comment, you know, you want to go anonymous as well. So let's do this. Let me dive into the back end. I'm going to show you, and at the end of this, what I'm going to do, I'm going to make a page like Dennis made, so we can get a sort of feel for, let's say this, I'll do it in 60 seconds. So we're going to see how easy that is. Yeah, so I'm going to click on the rocket ship back here. When you go to create a DIY event, you see we have some pre-stock templates. It's so much easier to have this. In fact, when we get around to Giving Tuesday, you know, which passed, you know, November 27th, we'll have a pre-stock template back here and some great images in there. You'll spin it up in minutes, and it's super duper easy. Yeah, but you go here and you name it and you walk through some steps to create this. We can support you with that onboarding call. And once you get there, you'll get into a section like this, and you'll have some more settings up here across the top. See the maroon? And I clicked on settings and we opened up this side compartment. There's so much going on back here, but let's drill into something that would help you for the context of this DIY. What I like to do is get back here, you know, and start to set the pre-populated information for our peer-to-peer fundraisers, right? You got to have a logo set up. In fact, let's do this. If we go back here and just really quickly as I surf around, if I skip ahead on some fundraisers, I saw them the other day. There it is, pre-stocked logos. They didn't upload a picture, so they have the eSite logo right here, right? So yeah, that's what we want to do. It's good when they add their own picture and story, but let's help them out a bit. So we'll go in here, and for lack of a better image, can you imagine if every page uploaded with my picture? That would be horrible. That would be, we won't do that to people. All right, and then we can do a pre-populated amount. And we have the default appeal in here as well. So you can put in your own story here. You can add images, videos, and you save that up. You can do the same for team fundraising pages. And once anybody creates a fundraising page, they'll have that pre-stocked content. All right, it's really important. So that makes it super duper easy as well. It's nice as well to have a default appeal so you can automate. This will be automated, a pre-stocked email template. So you can put in things like, I like to put in a fundraising toolkit, you know, maybe with some suggestions. You could even put in email templates like, hey, send this in week 1. Halfway through the event, here's last call, or sorry, halfway through the event. And then, you know, right before the end or last week, last call for donations, something of that nature. Or you can hyperlink it to a kit. But this is the default appeal that they will get once they make a fundraising page. Yeah, so that is that. You know, we looked at this, and Rob, I saw that in his video, but I kind of wanted to dive in before we get in there. We set up some default information. Let's get into the manage section over here in the community. I like to do this. So, you know, after they set up a fundraising page, what sort of access do we have to them? All right. Let's look at fundraisers. Let's go into Oliver's page. I'm going to hover over manage up here, and you see all the information that we gather for you. I think it's important to show this live because this makes it possible for you to dig into stuff in a sort of a fun atmosphere rather than, you know, into the weeds of Excel sheets and columns. We don't want that, right? It's no fun to work like that anyhow. So yeah, so let's go into some fundraising pages. Let's pretend that I need to get into Oliver's fundraising page to see something. You know, maybe Oliver wants me to tweak something on his page. That would be especially important if this was a board member and they weren't really, you know, doing so much with the page that you had set up for them. You could tweak that information here. We could also administratively, this never happens, but it's important to be able to disable or delete a page because somebody did something that wasn't supposed to be done. You have control over that. So, you know, control over things that you can do in a snap 24/7 without having to contact us at support, although we're happy to help, right? You know, going into further detail here, we've got into donations. If I clicked on a donor here, maybe Sam wasn't supposed to give to Oliver and I needed to move this. And I'm only showing you this because when we're doing it ourselves and we have people, you know, doing this for the first time, you know, we want to make sure that we're able to facilitate things. That being said, we just moved a donation without having to contact anybody. So that's sort of the power that you have over this here on the back end. You know, Rob talked about design. If you're going to go in here and design up a page, what you want to do is come in here and remove some of the images that we pre-stock for you. And this is only to give you an idea of what would go in there. So I'll remove that and I put in media with a copy and paste of a YouTube video or Vimeo, right? Or what I could do is go ahead and upload an image to take that placeholder until I get the video. And you know, I've had really good calls over here where we're onboarding folks, and Candace Cody, who you heard from earlier, has done an amazing job with people. And I've seen Candace come in and take in hex codes for people and upload images, you know, on certain calls. And you know, it's as easy as that. You can match it up to your website with some simple hex code cut and paste, or you can just get a quick start by dragging and dropping back here. The buttons are editable. So what you'll see in certain, you know, events is you'll see join the campaign, or maybe it's, you need to write create, you know, create a fundraising page, right? Whatever you need to do there, you can add that button and further curate that. The side compartments, the sample compartments, as you've seen over under the eSite software, simple editor. Once you highlight it, you get this editor up here, and you can do headings, you can hyperlink sections here. You can do that over here. Adding images is a cinch. I see a lot of people putting over, sponsors, right? Maybe the local bank has sponsored you, and maybe part of that, cross collateralization is saying, hey, we're going to give you some advertising on our website, and we want to give you recognition of this event, and you can hyperlink their logo over there. Pretty cool touch. We see a lot of that done over here for, this iSite where they put in even testimonials. I thought was very cool. All right, so you've seen how these things scale, but if you want to get a quick peek at how your site is looking, you can also format it here as well. All right, now let's do this. What I want to do is I want to go ahead and create a peer-to-peer page for you guys. How did Dennis do this? Now we're going to be asking people that they do it on their own, right? So we might as well see what it looks like live. So, all right, we're going to go up here. Anytime you're looking at your campaign, you always have this URL up here, right? Actually, if I click on settings, this is how you launch your campaign up here. You can launch it and take it offline. All right, I'm gonna click on the URL. And this is a test page that we have. I'm gonna click join the campaign. And quite simply, you can click in and add an email. So and then a password. You have to get this right. If I didn't do it right, I didn't do it right. I could tell my fingers were not so nimble. All right. It's important to have your password right? Because if it's right, then you can get in again. All right, good. So here we are. I'm not going to save this here. So as you see here, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 steps, okay? And I want a timeline. I said 60 seconds, so I better boogie. All right, so I can upload a picture. You see me do that. Me again, I need to put my son, who takes a much better picture, in here, but me for now, sorry. All right, now, Chris Collins. You can collect additional information. I didn't show you back there, but we have a host of custom fields that you can create with drop-down menus, yes or no, did you participate last year, things of that nature. Did mention you can pre-populate fundraising goals as well. I can continue on there. This is without registration. A lot of DIY, you're not going to ask people to pay to play, right? So we don't have that, but you have pre-stocked content, no picture, because I didn't add one, but you can. And then with one more continue, you're into the share functions here. All right. And with that, you've created your peer-to-peer page. All right. And with that, you have become a fundraiser like Dennis. Where's my man Dennis? He's back here. I think for the sake of looking at the template, I want to kind of move through and take a look at some other templates so that you can see what stays the same and what changes. All right. Now we're over here and we see the template of the Change for Kids Super Chefs. Now this is actually just another example. This had an end date, so there's a countdown clock. Typical DIY does not, right? You just want it to be open, no end date. If you need to put in an end date in, you do have that ability here, and you can count down those days. All right, but this is the template. Clear calls to action, donate. I love this one. Create a fundraising page. It's a good call to action, right? And we have, as you see in the World Bicycle Relief in here, and they're sort of set up for this as well. They do big team fundraising as well. And you can allow teams for fundraisers. I've always found that it's a good, friendly recruitment tool. You know, if I join a team, and I've been invited to teams, I was invited by a friend to join a bike ride in New Hampshire, and I joined the team, and 2 of our friends joined the team. So by getting that request from a friend, all of a sudden, you know, we joined as fundraisers and became team fundraisers for that event. Yeah. All right. So good. And oh yeah, just to finish this off here, let's go ahead and take a look at the dashboard together. So now that we're into the dashboard, we want to give you an idea of what fundraisers can control back here, right? So they can post updates, they can share this page, they can view donations. Hey, if they haven't got any, let's make the first one. That's kind of cool. view updates. They can go in and edit that page. Maybe those page details, I didn't want Collins. I wanted Chris C. All right. So there's my new stub. Now, fundraising goals. Got a good story about that. Had my best friend, best man at my wedding. I invited him to this. So if he's listening, I won't mention your name, Greg. Actually tell me, hey, I saw your fundraising page, but you'd already hit the goal. So I didn't donate. So yeah, always good to, to know that you can raise the goal here, right? So you always want to move that carrot out for people. If you hit your goal, there's no sense in maybe, leaving it at that. You can raise that up and get some more money there as well. All right. So move this forward. I'm going to do one thing that I want to do for you before I close this up. And of course, you can edit the page appeal here, right? Go in and edit that at any time. I want to make a team for you. So let's, work into that sort of, friendly recruitment tool piece that we have here. I'm going to go ahead and create a team. And I could go ahead and walk through the steps and do that. Or, I might decide that I want to join a team. And I'm going to join a team here. If I did join that team, I could always leave that team to go ahead and create my own team to play into the recruitment action that we've been talking about. And you just simply go down here, click on this team. I can leave this team. Yes, I've left the team. Notice how all the back arrows work with this, so you don't get that pesky, form submission will not work, or do you want to do this again? It actually works to go back, and I always like to do that. That's just me. And then I could create a team from here. So full control for the end user to be able to manage this on their own. Full control for you, the admin, to help manage that if you need to. So you're sort of appealing to varieties of, I guess, technology aptitude. To make this happen. Noah, I've talked a lot. Do you have anything that you wanted me to add?
No, that's great. Thanks for giving a quick overview on how organizations are really using CosVox to scale up DIY and really empowering their supporters to use their voice to raise money. But also, which I think is super important and very different from other platforms, is giving you complete visibility as an organization and control into all of those fundraising campaigns. It can kind of be scary to have like 50, 10, one person going out and fundraising on your behalf. But CosVox really helps you gain visibility and having control while also empowering your supporters, which is essential. So thanks so much, Chris, for kind of giving that overview. That was great. We are going to move into kind of our next sessions. If you have any other questions about DIY or would like to kind of more of a one-on-one on like how could this work for our organization, you can actually click the link in the chat pane to book time directly with our team one-on-one. And we'd be happy to kind of share how you might be able to set this up in a way that is easy and simple, but also cost effective. Because now with CosVox, you can set up DIY fundraising on our free plan, which is incredible. Our new basic plan lets you do that. And so we'd be happy to connect with you on that. So thanks so much, Chris, for sharing.
Thanks, guys.
See ya. See ya. So our next session for today, because we're going to roll right into